Hi everybody, here's a rumination application for this week. So this week we discussed first kind of the ending of the medieval and Renaissance rhetoric by talking with female rhetoric, and then Thursday started our discussion on enlightenment. Both of those I brought in my background with Italian and English art history, a lot more Italian, because when I studied abroad in Europe, I have a lot of background with the Italian Renaissance, so that has come in handy the last couple of weeks. And also, we spent a lot of time with, in my history classes in undergrad, with the Decameron and other early Italian Renaissance pieces of rhetoric as well. Yeah, a backstory, but yeah. So in each of these, I discussed kind of the differences in the rhetorical switches. So in the discussion of the female rhetoric, I discussed how the female rhetoricians are beginning to kind of put distrust in what the rhetoricians of that era have been thinking about virtue being in that higher being, in that liturgical, in that religious sense. So in being something that you can only look up to, in being something that you can't think for yourself, really, that it's all really thought for you in religion. And through female rhetoricians, French female rhetoricians, such as Rhetoric, and on conversation, starts to pull that apart. And this is where I have the discussion of if this is where we really start to see ideas of more progressivism starting, before we really think of progressivism, not necessarily feminism, but progressivism, because we see little pushes of like, okay, let's open up, let's think for ourselves, there's something here, there's something more than what we're doing right now. And even though the artists at that time were also being commissioned to do that religious artwork, to show the rhetorical meanings that were going on at the time with that higher being, artists were also doing their own thing as well in tiny ways, including some women in paintings, and also putting in their own signatures as well, to also help to push that progressivism. So even though that they were holding up that those rhetorical meanings for those families and for those in charge, that they were using their own artistic means to also push new ideas forward in their own ways. So through use of color, through use of different hidden meanings, objects, and certain things. And we really start to see that push even further in the Enlightenment era, in the word itself, in enlightening. So that's where I then start to push even further with the art. I do a comparison back and forth with how we start to see that that they still have a higher being to look up to for or a higher sense to look up to for virtue, but in it's not a higher religious being anymore. It's instead of religion, we now look back to it's now so now looking back to the classics, and now they tie into heroicism. So so now it's looking up to those people, those commoners who have gone up to heroic status. So those common real people that are now up to that totem. So it's not these religious higher beings; it's these common people that have become higher beings. So it's a little bit different of a stance, and artists are also using that in these places to also challenge common thought, because we're transitioning from a time where people are thinking collectively and not being able to think for themselves, and now we're questioning everything. An Enlightenment era where people are beginning to think for themselves, allowed to think for themselves in certain ways, and paintings aren't just conveying certain messages, but they're also conveying questions and conveying conflictions and conveying thoughts that people want to have. And the one particular painting that I put in is the Temptation of St. Anthony, which is really interesting painting. It shows a lot of things that are going on and things that people should be starting to contemplate and ask certain things. So, and I put, like, it was a great example of how Rhetoric can begin to push boundaries. And from the beginning on Tuesday, I asked about like how female rhetoricians in the Renaissance era can begin to push towards progressivism, and you see that more in the Enlightenment era as well. So these paintings are showing that kind of like that linearity forward of like of how the rhetoric is changing and adapting with that, and it's really fascinating to me. I would really like to look more at I mean, I've been going in my head about like how architecture changed from the medieval to from the Renaissance medieval to the Enlightenment era. I'm not that familiar with that that particular era of architecture, but it would be really fascinating to see how those change. Also, the clothing and how artists in those particular genres as well help to show that change in those types of rhetoric as well, because this is where rhetoricians begin to get off the page and into other areas, into other areas of expertise, and begin to show their enlightenment through other art forms, which is really fascinating. And that's where I'm starting to pull on other different areas where it's like how is the rhetoric getting off the page and into other fields.